for business people.
Hello, my name is Ayush Alabadi. You're watching Primetime. Let's have a look at today's headlines. India's fiscal deficit breaches the full-year target, hits 6.12 lakh crores in the April to November period. The government says virtual currencies are as risky as Ponzi schemes. Mumbai's municipal corporation suspends 5 officials for negligence in the aftermath of the Kamla Mills fire that claimed the lives of 14 people. Buoyed by the Reliance Jio Arcom deal, SBI Chairman Rajneesh Kumar says a significant number of stressed accounts will get resolved in the first half of 2018. Indian markets end 2017 at record highs. The Nifty closes above 10,530 with the best annual gain in 3 years. And Apple apologizes for the slowing down in older iPhones. Well, the Indian government has exceeded its fiscal deficit target for the current year in the April to November period. Fiscal deficit reached 6.12 lakh crores, which is 112% of the budgeted gap for 2017-18. The government had reached only 86% of its budgeted deficit target in the same period last year. Bloomberg Quint's Ira Dugal sums up the implications in this report.
It's been a tough week for the government. With each passing day, it's become clear that its finances are anything but in the pink of health. You had on Friday the fiscal deficit numbers for the April to November period getting announced, and you've seen the government breach its fiscal deficit target. So for the April to November period, they're at 112% of the targeted number. 6.12 lakh crore is what they've done in terms of fiscal deficit in this particular period. This is the first time since 2008 that you've seen the government breach the 100% mark in this April to November period. Now, there is nothing to say that they will not be able to make good on this shortfall over the rest of the year. You could see, hypothetically, a situation where revenue collection picks up or non-tax revenues pick up for some reason, and the government manages to meet its fiscal deficit target of 3.2% of GDP, but that seems very unlikely at this point in time. The reason I say it's very unlikely is not just because of the numbers that came in on Friday, but remember earlier in the week, the government had admitted that it will need to borrow more from the market. So it had said that it would borrow 50,000 crore more from dated securities, and there's another 23,000 crore in additional borrowing via T-bills. So if you put the pieces together, it looks like the government is going to breach the fiscal deficit number for the current fiscal. Economists are currently saying that it may settle somewhere between 3.5 to 3.7% of GDP. You had bond markets who have been very nervous all week. So when the borrowing numbers got announced the day after that, on Thursday, bond yields closed at almost 7.40%. As you close off the fiscal year, yields are up by more than 80 basis points, close to 90 basis points within the calendar year. And again, that's one of the worst performances that you've seen for the bond markets since 2009. There was a little bit of a twist of the tail right at the end of this Friday trading session because the Reserve Bank of India came in and cancelled a part of its scheduled bond auction. There was 15,000 crore up for auction. They only auctioned about 4,000 crore. That gave a little bit of a yield signal because markets read into that cancellation, suggesting that the RBI thinks that yields are too high right now given the macroeconomic scenario. So you had yields dipping towards the second half of trade. But by the time you closed once again above 7.30%, suggesting that the pressure on bond yields will continue into the early months of 2018. The government finances look shaky as of now, and unless something changes dramatically in terms of either revenues collected through GST collections or in terms of non-tax revenues through divestment, etc., it looks like you will see a breach of the fiscal deficit target in fiscal 2018.
So the government has collected 80% of the budgeted target for indirect taxes in fiscal year 2017-18. Minister of State for Finance Shiv Pratap Shukla informed the Parliament that the indirect tax mop-up stood at 7.35 lakh crores as of November 30th. The full year target stands at 9.27 lakh crore rupees. Of the total collected amount, 3.68 lakh crore rupees was collected as GST, while the remaining was collected through excise, customs and service tax levied by government before GST was implemented. The centre has compensated states for an estimated revenue loss of 24,500 crore rupees in the July to October period on account of GST. Direct tax mop-up in comparison stood at 66% of the budgeted target as of December 18th. Now, the government has collected 6.49 lakh crore rupees versus a budget target of 9.8 lakh crore rupees. Of the total direct tax collected, 3.77 lakh crore rupees came as corporate tax, while 2.65 lakh crores were collected as personal income tax. Now, moving on, the Lok Sabha has passed the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code Amendment Bill. Finance Minister Jaitley said that the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code was enacted to achieve insolvency resolution in a time-bound manner. He also said that the amendment has been brought in to prohibit certain people from submitting a resolution or a debt restructuring plan. This includes willful defaulters, disqualified directors, promoters or management of the defaulting company, and any person who has committed these activities abroad. The bill also bars an insolvency professional from selling the property of a defaulter to any such person during liquidation.
The reason why the ordinance was brought in, because a large number of cases are already pending a resolution mechanism itself. And therefore, if we had not immediately brought in, then even the ineligible persons who are sought to be made ineligible under this would have started applying for the resolutions itself. And therefore, in order to give it an immediate effect, an ordinance to this effect was necessary, and that's the reason why the ordinance was brought in, sir.
Well, the government has also extended the date for filing returns in Form GST R1 for all taxpayers to 10th January 2018. Registered persons have aggregated turnovers of up to and above 1.5 crore rupees in the preceding financial year or the current financial year can file their returns till 10th January. Earlier, the deadline was set at December 31st, 2017. Now, the government has today issued a warning on cryptocurrencies, raising concerns over the recent spike in prices and general virtual currencies like bitcoins. The Finance Ministry, in its statement, says there is a real and heightened risk of an investment bubble similar to the type seen in Ponzi schemes. This is the second time that such a warning has been issued by the administration. Bloomberg Quint's Nikunjori sums up the Finance Ministry's stern warning in this report.
After repeated warnings issued by the Reserve Bank of India, the government has now stepped forward and cautioned people not to invest or trade in bitcoins and has equated virtual currencies to Ponzi schemes. In a statement issued Friday, the Ministry of Finance has said that virtual currencies are not backed by any assets and their price is a mere speculation which leads to volatility in its own prices. Remember, the RBI had recently said that there's no entity that has been authorized by the RBI to act as an exchange for trading in virtual currencies like Bitcoin. Remember, the value of Bitcoin has surged 1700% in the current financial year, and the Indian government has also constituted a committee to look into various aspects like regulating virtual currencies. The committee has representations from Ministry of Finance, Department of Revenue and Department of Economic Affairs, SEBI, RBI and other government agencies. The mandate given to this committee is to regulate, to look into regulating virtual currencies and looking into various aspects like taxation, money laundering and consumer protection.
Well, the Municipal Corporation of Mumbai today suspended 5 of its officials for negligence and booked 2 restaurant owners after a fire claimed the lives of 14 people and left 21 injured. Police say the One Above pub where the fire started flouted fire safety norms. A case has also been filed against the management of the pub. City authorities have ordered an inquiry into the incident.
ये जो घटना घटी है ये बहुत ही दुर्दैवी है। जिस प्रकार से इसमें मृत्यु हुआ है और इसकी जांच करने के आदेश बीएमसी कमिश्नर को दिए हैं। 5 लोगों को सस्पेंड किया गया है। इसमें जो इसके मालिक हैं, चलाने वाले हैं, इनके ऊपर कार्रवाई की जा रही है। टीएमसी को यह भी आदेश दिए हैं कि इस प्रकार के जहां पर भी स्ट्रक्चर्स है जिसको परमिशन दी है उसका इमीडिएटली ऑडिट किया जाए और जहां पर बिना परमिशन के ऐसा कुछ चल रहा है उसको तुरंत वॉर फुटिंग पर डिमोलिश किया जाए, यह भी आदेश दिए हैं।
Now, the fire tragedy in Mumbai's Kamla Mills found mention in both houses of parliament today. In Lok Sabha, BJP MP from Mumbai Northeast, Kirit Somaiya, said that the construction norms were flouted by the Kamla Mills complex. Shiv Sena's Arvind Sawant asked for an impartial probe into the tragedy. In Rajya Sabha too, questions were raised on whether BMC conducts security checks before granting these licenses to pubs, eateries and restaurants in Mumbai. Listen in.
वहां पर वो जो पब था, रेस्टोरेंट था, वो गैर कानूनी था, उसके बाद परमिशन नहीं थी। इस प्रकार के कमला मिल कंपाउंड और बगल के फिनिक्स मिल कंपाउंड में इस प्रकार के डजन ऑफ होटल, रेस्टोरेंट, पब है। अर्बन डेवलपमेंट मिनिस्टर और महाराष्ट्र सरकार को सूचना दी जाए कि इन सबका स्पेशल फायर ऑडिट किया जाए। कमला मिल और फिनिक्स मिल इज नथिंग बट अ डेथ ट्रैप।
मैं मांग करता हूं इस पर इसकी न्यायिक जांच होनी चाहिए और जब तक न्याय, वो जो होटल है वो किसी कमिश्नर के बेटे का होटल है, वो तो फिर बाद में कोई अधिकारी जांच करेगा, एक दूसरे को ढाक लेंगे। नहीं चाहता हूं मैं, ये एक बार कभी तो इसके जड़ पर जाना चाहिए और सारी मिलों के अंदर वो रेसिडेंशियल होने दो या कमर्शियल कॉम्प्लेक्सेस होने दो, उसकी पूरी जांच होता है, खास करके इस दुर्घटना की जांच होता है।
Now, the tragedy at Kamla Mills exposes once more the lack of city planning across the country's commercial capital. The historic mill district of Lower Parel is fast becoming the business and entertainment hub of Mumbai. Some might say a little too fast. The mushrooming of business and residential towers and commercial establishments exposes those who work and live in the area to public safety crises every day. Just weeks ago, a sudden scare and bridge collapse at a local train station caused a stampede that left 23 commuters dead. Last night's fire would have cost fewer lives if proper building standards were applied. Lower Parel's mill complexes have seen a rampant commercialization, lack of adequate access for emergency services, and contribute to unending traffic snarls in the city. Let's talk about the first point, that is poor access for emergency services. My colleague Alex Matthew went down to a famous landmark here in Lower Parel to understand just how difficult it is for vehicles to maneuver in and out of that area.
What's happened at Kamla Mills last night has clearly raised questions about the planning of infrastructure here in Lower Parel. I'm standing outside Toddy Mills, one of the mills in this area, and as you can see behind me, the entrance, especially because of the vehicles that are parked here and the vehicles that you can see entering, is not really wide enough to allow a large fire truck, the size of which would be required to combat a fire the size of which took place last night.
Poorly designed entry and exit points is not just the problem of Lower Parel's mill complexes, it symbolizes the entire district. The one arterial road that runs through the area is a traffic nightmare at peak hours. From Raghuvanshi Mills at one end of the main road to Kamla Mills at the other, it can sometimes take 40 minutes by car, which may not seem like much in Mumbai until I tell you that it's barely a 1 kilometer stretch. Alex reports on the traffic nightmare that is Lower Parel.
I'm just across the road from where I started out and just a short distance away from the east exit of Kamla Mills. It's about 5 p.m. in the evening and the traffic is just about starting to pick up. The reason I mention this is that the incident that took place yesterday or last night happened around midnight, and the firefighters that came to combat the fire didn't have to contend with the traffic. If another mishap were to happen around peak time, it's not a stretch of the imagination to say that that's another tragedy just waiting to happen.
Well, sadly, Lower Parel's problems are about to get much worse. Rampant construction is adding new residential and business towers every day with no addition to the existing infrastructure. It would be no exaggeration to say that in a few years, the hazards we have discussed so far are about to get worse.
The other point to talk about is the speed of commercialization. Low Parel has very quickly become the heart of Mumbai's high-rises. Take the building behind me, for example. Once completed, it's going to be one of the tallest residential structures in the world, and it's only one of several high-rises in this area. Now, the problem isn't the size of the buildings, it's the fact that the road infrastructure hasn't kept pace with the development. So you can imagine that once these buildings are completed, the chaos that is caused by the vehicular traffic that both exits and enters will only rise exponentially.
All right, before we end with our report on the sorry state of affairs in Mumbai's Lower Parel district, I just want to leave you with the names and pictures of two important people, Sunil Govind Shinde and Arvind Sawant. Now, Shinde is the elected MLA for the area. He's from the Shiv Sena party. Arvind Sawant, of course, is the member of parliament for the area. You heard him earlier in one of those bites. He's also from the Shiv Sena. These are the two men who should be speaking up for Lower Parel. The question is, are they? Now, we'll be discussing more on Mumbai's poor state of urban planning on Primetime Debate today, where I'll be joined by K.V. Hivrale, the Deputy Chief Fire Officer of Mumbai, noted architect, Hafiz contractor, and of course, urban expert and environmentalist Rishi Agarwal, who's joining us in the studio. Also on Primetime Debate, we'll be speaking to R. Gandhi, former Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of India, on the future of virtual currencies in India. Now, it's the last trading day of the year, and Indian markets closed the year at record highs on the back of gains in Axis Bank, Tata Motors and TCS. Both the benchmark indices also posted their best annual gains in 3 years. Neeraj Shah sums up how the markets performed in 2017 in this report.
Well, it turned out to be a really good day for the markets and a really good year for the markets as well. We ended at fresh highs. And those numbers are fairly impressive, over 28% for each of the key indices. You couldn't have asked for more. What contributed to this kind of moves? Well, I think in terms of the sectors which did well, real estate, not a nifty composition, but still about 106%. Consumer durables did really well to about 100-odd%. And then metals from amongst the large cap pocket outside of banking had a fabulous year as well. So 47, 48%. And a clutch of these names, the likes of Hindalco, etc., did well. But the index contributors, Bajaj Finance over 100% for this one. Tata Steel 87-odd%. A clutch of other names, the likes of Indiabulls Housing Finance, Maruti Suzuki, which nudged the 10,000 mark on the Bombay Stock Exchange, also doing very well this year. There were obviously a few disappointments, but concentrated around the pharma pack and then Coal India. So Lupin, Dr. Reddy's, Sun Pharma, Coal India, those are amongst. But it was essentially pharma which underperformed this year in a massive way. Shifting out of the index, what did very well? A great year for IPOs. So Avenue Supermarts, Apex Frozen Foods, Shankara Building Products, about 181% as well. So these are good numbers even post-listing. I'm talking about the post-listing gains that came in for some of those. The best performing index was the real estate space, and look at what the stocks have done. Indiabulls Real Estate over 200%, Soba 152%. DLF had a fairly decent outing as well, about 132%. So good going. And non-realty, some of the best performers included Rain Industries over 6 times, Bombay Dyeing about 5 times in the year gone by, Avanti Feeds about 4 times. So clutch of names doing extremely well for themselves. And then you look at the small cap space and the gains are even more exaggerated. Indiabulls Ventures 12 times, HEG about 14 times, Graphite India would probably have been about 9 times, Bhansali Engineering Polymers about 8 times as well. And then there were some other stocks, which also did reasonably okay. But all in all, a fabulous year for the indices, for the broader markets as well. Let's hope we have some bit of this performance in calendar year 18. At least that's what the bulls would be hoping for.
Well, we also spoke to a number of market experts on what they expect from the markets in the year 2018. Listen in.
2018 is not going to be as great. We'll have more volatility. We are coming out with a high expectation and high base effect. Our view would be that Indian equity markets can give you double-digit returns, but to expect the returns which we got in 2017 would be something keeping your expectations too high.
If the world market is up, we have enough local money now, and of course some marginal flows from outside that will come, to keep our market tracking the foreign market.
India is like a house under renovation. There is a lot of structural change happening which is disrupting the near-term But the hope is that this is all in the right direction, and there's no doubt about that. So people are leaving the FY19 numbers untouched.
Right.
So even for the first quarter GDP, after the first quarter GDP release, to the extent it can be trusted, the FY18 GDP numbers were brought down from like a close to 7 handle to a 6.5, 6.4%. But FY19 was largely left untouched. So people think that as the economy goes through these adjustments, it will revive very strongly. My fear is that that may not happen.
Now, the RCom Reliance Jio deal is an indication that promoters are getting serious about clearing their dues. That's not the word coming from me, it's coming in from SBI Chairman Rajneesh Kumar. He also said he expects the pace of resolution to pick up and that he sees a number of the large accounts getting resolved in the next 6 months.
There is definitely stress in the telecom sector, but as far as the State Bank of India is concerned, most of our accounts are getting resolved, and they have been resolved because of the promoters' willingness to settle the dues, and even if there have been losses for them, they are being absorbed by the promoters. We are very much in the resolution phase, and next 3 to 6 months, the accounts which got referred in the first phase, definitely the resolution plan for all of them will be put in place.
Now, brokerages have mostly remained bullish on the Reliance Jio RCom deal. Motilal Oswal has said that the RCom assets remain strategic to Reliance Jio and acquisition is a premium value as a result. However, it has said that acquisition is expensive when compared to the recent assets acquired by rival Bharti Airtel. Morgan Stanley has maintained its outweight rating on the RIL stock and said that the acquisition should bring synergies and lower cost. However, Jefferies differed in its assessment of the deal. It is said that the near-term economic upside may be limited even if the assets fit. It also had maintained its underperform rating on the RIL stock. Now, Minister of State for Electronics and IT Alphonse Kannantham says the government has suspended nearly 50,000 enrollment operators for violating the guidelines for Aadhaar enrollment till date. In a written reply to the Rajya Sabha, the minister said that erroneous enrollments get rejected during quality checks. He also said that about 71.24 crore mobile numbers, 14.3 crore PAN numbers and 82 crore bank accounts have been linked with Aadhaar as on December 8th. Fair trade regulator CCI has ordered a probe against Star India and its officials for alleged abuse of a dominant position in broadcasting services market in Kerala. This comes after a complaint by a state-based cable operator which accused Star India of charging excessive license fees from Thiruvananthapuram Entertainment Network. Star India has denied all the allegations. The CCI has asked its Director General to complete the probe within 60 days. Now, what if I told you that you could enjoy your favorite meal and get paid for doing it? That's what some Instagrammers are doing nowadays, as long as you have a dedicated fan base and what's now called a social media influencer. Now, there are some big brands that are willing to spend a lot more than what those fancy meals cost. Have a look. in big tech news, more than a week after reports suggested that Apple slowed down the performance of older iPhones to extend the battery life of these phones, Apple has finally apologized to its customers for the software change that impact the performance adversely. Corey Johnson from Bloomberg News joins us on the show. Corey, thanks so much for joining us yet again. Is it too late now to say sorry for Apple?
Sure. I'm not sure how much of a sorry this is. This is more like sorry your feelings were hurt. Apple's saying that the conspiracy theory is that they intentionally slowed down battery performance of older iPhones with a software update were untrue, but maybe the software performance was slowed down by a software update, and we're sorry if that bothers you. They've offered also to lower the price of fixing old batteries of phones that are no longer in warranty. But I don't think they're really copping to what happened.
No, absolutely, Corey. This was an interesting case because until the Geekbench developers, and we spoke to John Poole on Bloomberg Quint as well, until they actually got down to conducting these tests, it was just a myth that needed to be busted. And it was only brought to the fore after that revelation on Reddit and on Geekbench.
Yeah, I think it was obvious that something was going on there. I think the real, if you want to give Apple the benefit of the doubt, and I'm not generally inclined to give anyone the benefit of a doubt as a journalist, I don't think that's our job. But I think that it's important Apple's focused on selling the latest, greatest thing. And they want to optimize their new devices in the best way possible. And if the old devices get worse in the process, I don't know that that's a focus of Apple. And I think that we can kind of see that here, that they really are focused on the upgrade, on the new phone, on selling making the best thing possible in the newest thing possible. And if obsolescence is a result of that, I don't think they have any problem with that.
Corey, thanks so much for that update. Really appreciate you joining us so early in the morning from San Francisco. Well, the moral of the story in that scenario is just change your battery and Apple's going to make that a lot cheaper for you after this case. Now, if it was a turtle stuck with contraband or Trump's animatronic last week, this week we've got another set of viral trends from the internet. Have a look.
Scandals happen all the time. The question is, how do democracies respond to those scandals?
And what will it mean for the wider region? I think one of your children has just walked in. I mean, shifting sands in the region. Do you think relations with the North may change?
I would be surprised if they do. Pardon me.
Serious questions, very, very quickly. Are you ready?
Yes.
It's a quick fire question round. Rachel or Monica?
I like Rachel.
Okay. I won't be telling Monica that. Kim or Chloe?
This one I have to defer on.
Okay. Harry or William?
William right now.
Titanic or The Bodyguard?
Titanic.
Suits or The Good Wife?
Suits, obviously.
Great answer.
Well, with that, it's a wrap on this show. But up next on Primetime Debate, we'll be discussing more on Mumbai's poor state of urban planning. And of course, I'll be joined by KV Hivrale, the Deputy Chief Fire Officer of Mumbai, noted architect, Hafiz contractor, an urban expert and environmentalist, Rishi Agarwal, who's joining us in the Bloomberg Quint studio. Also on Primetime Debate, we'll be speaking to R. Gandhi, former Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of India, on the future of virtual currencies like Bitcoin in India. Stay tuned.